For £253, you get 50 millilitres of this. That's just over £5 per milliliter. And I want to be straight with you from the very first second, at that price, Tom Ford Electric Cherry either needs to be one of the most electrifying, jaw-dropping cherry fragrances ever bottled, or it is, quite simply, a very expensive mistake. The second I sprayed this, I stopped mid-conversation. That opening hit, it doesn't whisper. It announces. There is something happening in this bottle that I did not expect from a fruity cherry fragrance, and by the time we get to the dry down, I think you're going to understand exactly why this one is dividing opinion so sharply right now. Stay with me, because I'm going to tell you something about how this fragrance behaves on skin after about 4 hours that almost nobody is talking about. And it genuinely changes the verdict. Tom Ford. The name alone carries weight. And it should. When Tom Ford left Gucci in 2004 and launched his own fashion house, the fragrance division wasn't an afterthought, it was central to his entire identity. Tom Ford Private Blend launched in 2007, and it repositioned what luxury fragrance could mean in the modern era. Oud Wood, Black Orchid, Tobacco Vanille, Neroli Portofino. These aren't just fragrances, they are cultural touchstones. What makes Tom Ford's approach so distinctive is the theatre of it. His fragrances are never shy. They are built for rooms, for memories, for impact. And when the house moves into fruity or gourmand territory, they don't do it the easy way. They don't reach for the synthetic, the safe, the crowd-pleasing supermarket sweetness. They push into something darker, bolder, more complex. Electric Cherry sits in that same tradition. This is not a simple fruit fragrance. Tom Ford doesn't do simple. And understanding that context, understanding the house's obsession with depth and provocation, is what allows you to properly appreciate what's happening inside this bottle. Let's talk about the object itself, because with Tom Ford you are absolutely paying for the full experience, and the bottle is part of that contract. Electric Cherry arrives in that immediately recognizable Tom Ford aesthetic. The bottle is a deep, rich red, almost lacquered, almost dangerous. It has that solid, weighted feel in the hand that immediately communicates seriousness. This is not a lightweight, plastic-feeling flacon. This is a bottle you leave on your dressing table deliberately, because you want people to see it. The Tom Ford logo is embossed cleanly. The cap sits flush and satisfying. There's no wobble, no cheapness, no cutting of corners. The box it arrives in is equally considered, the kind of unboxing that makes you feel like you're opening something that matters. Does the bottle match the scent? I'd say yes. The deep red communicates exactly what's inside, something bold, something with heat, something that isn't afraid of itself. It's a display piece. And when you're spending £253, it absolutely should be. If you want to get your hands on this, it's available over at P11. I'll drop the direct link in the description below, as always. Right. The moment of truth. You press that sprayer and Electric Cherry does not ease you in gently. This is not a fragrance that tiptoes. The opening is immediate, vivid, almost theatrical, and cherry is front and center, but not in the way you might fear. This is not the synthetic, sickly, cheap cherry you've smelled in body sprays and shower gels. This is cherry with darkness behind it. Cherry with something almost pharmaceutical, almost sharp, cutting through the sweetness before it can become cloying. There's a brightness to it, genuinely electric, which I suspect is where the name earns its place, but it's paired with something deeper that keeps it from tipping into the sugary abyss. The projection on that opening spray is impressive. This is not a skin scent in its opening chapter. This fills the air around you. Walk into a room wearing Electric Cherry fresh, and people will notice. The sillage in those first 30 minutes is the kind that earns you a comment from a stranger. That's not nothing. Does it live up to expectations? In the opening act, absolutely. Tom Ford has nailed that difficult balance, fruit that feels luxurious rather than cheap. And that's genuinely hard to do. As that bright, electric opening begins to settle, we're talking the first hour on skin, something interesting happens. The sharpness softens. The cherry deepens. And what emerges in the heart is where electric cherry starts to reveal its real character. There's a warmth that builds underneath the fruit. Something almost resinous, almost smoky at the edges. It gives the fragrance a gravity it wouldn't otherwise have. The cherry doesn't disappear, it evolves. It becomes less sharp, more plush, more like the idea of cherry rather than a literal bite of the fruit. What surprised me in this middle phase was how wearable it becomes. The opening is a statement, but the heart is actually more versatile than I expected. It becomes something you could comfortably wear without feeling like you're shouting. There's a sophistication that emerges, an elegance that, frankly, justifies the Tom Ford name more convincingly than the opening alone. If you've tried this in store and thought it was too intense or too sweet, I would genuinely encourage you to give it 20 minutes on skin. The heart is where this fragrance makes its real argument. And here is the thing I mentioned at the top that almost nobody is talking about. At around the 3 to 4 hour mark, electric cherry undergoes what I can only describe as a transformation. The base settles in and something almost animalic, almost skin-like begins to emerge. The cherry is now a memory, a warm, faintly sweet impression, but what's carrying the fragrance in this final phase is something richer, muskier, genuinely intimate. This is where electric cherry stops being a conversation starter and becomes something deeply personal. It's the kind of dry down that only works on skin, and it will smell different on different people. On me, it becomes almost addictively skin close. Not a room filler anymore. Something that only the person standing very close to you is going to catch. And I think that is by design. The journey from electric and projecting to warm and intimate, that's a Tom Ford move. It's cinematic. It has a beginning, a middle, and an ending, and the ending is the most compelling chapter. If you write this fragrance off at first spray, you are making a mistake. The dry down is the soul of this fragrance, and it is genuinely beautiful. Let's get into the numbers, because at this price point, you need the juice to perform. Longevity on skin, I'm getting between 8 and 10 hours consistently. The packaging claims 8 to 12, and I'd call that accurate on the upper end if you're applying to pulse points and giving it room to breathe. On clothing, push that further, I caught a trace of electric cherry on my collar the following morning. That's impressive. Sillage. I've touched on this already, but let me be clear about the arc opening 2 hours, strong projection, genuine presence, a room filler. Middle phase, moderate, well-behaved, you're noticeable but not overwhelming. Dry down, intimate, close to the skin, personal. This is actually a very intelligent Sillage profile. It makes a statement when you arrive, and then it becomes a secret between you and whoever is close enough. That's a genuinely luxurious quality. Best time of day to wear this? Evening, without question. There is a drama to electric cherry that belongs to the night. It would feel slightly overpowered in a morning office environment. This is a dinner fragrance, a date fragrance, an evening out fragrance. It peaks in the dark. Let me paint you a few pictures. If you're the type who dresses with intention, who sees what you wear, including your fragrance, as an extension of how you present yourself to the world, electric cherry will feel like a natural extension of that philosophy. This is for the person who chooses their fragrance the way they choose an outfit. Deliberately. If you're someone who is bored of safe fragrance, bored of inoffensive, bored of the same clean, fresh, soapy profile that fills every department store, electric cherry is a genuine antidote. It's bold. It has a point of view. And it will make you feel something when you wear it. If you are building a fragrance wardrobe and want a statement evening scent that is both distinctive and genuinely luxurious, this earns its place in that collection without question. Now, who should not wear this? If you are someone who prefers clean, linear fragrances with no surprises, step away. Electric cherry is a journey, and not everyone wants a journey. They want to smell good and get on with their day. Totally valid. This is not that fragrance. If you're buying your first ever Tom Ford and you're hoping for something crowd-pleasing and easy, I'd point you somewhere else first. Oud wood. Tobacco vanille. Get comfortable with the house before you step into electric cherry's world. Right. The honest part. £253 for 50 millilitres. That's £5.06 per milliliter. For context, that puts it firmly in the upper tier of Tom Ford's accessible line, not quite private blend territory, but approaching it. Are you paying for the liquid or the name? Honestly, both. And I think that's a fair answer. The liquid is genuinely excellent. The quality of the cherry note, the intelligence of the composition, the dry down that I've been talking about, this is not a fragrance that was lazily assembled to sit on a pretty bottle. There is craft here. But the Tom Ford premium is real. You are absolutely paying a portion of this price for the logo, for the bottle, for the cultural cachet. If that bothers you, you need to know that going in. A cheaper alternative that scratches a similar itch? Kylie Invite Only Amber 23 gets you into bold, statement, evening fruity territory for considerably less money. It's not electric cherry, but if budget is the primary concern, it's worth exploring before you commit. My score for electric cherry, 8 out of 10. It loses a point for the price-to-quantity ratio which, even by Tom Ford standards, is a stretch. And it loses another point because the opening, while impressive, is polarizing enough that I genuinely cannot recommend it as a universally safe buy. But everything else, the development, the dry down, the performance, the bottle, is close to flawless. You can pick this up at P11, the link is in the description. They're a brilliant UK stockist and they've always looked after this community well. Electric cherry is not a fragrance for everyone, and Tom Ford would probably take that as a compliment. It is bold, it is intelligent, it earns its price more convincingly than most, and that dry down, that intimate, skin-close, almost addictive final chapter, is one of the more beautiful things I've smelled this year. If you already own electric cherry, I want to know specifically this: did the dry down justify that price tag for you, or did you find something in a similar territory for half the cost that you actually reach for more often? Tell me in the comments, because that conversation is always more useful than any review I can give you. If honest fragrance reviews with no agenda are what you're after, subscribe. I post every week, and I never recommend something I wouldn't spend my own money on.